it's not just about helping people. It's like you are living permission that it's okay to care about people. And it actually feels good to care about people. And they feel that from you. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Pick Now podcast. I am really excited today to be talking to my former colleague and good friend, Mo Bunnell. Mo, you are an actuary. I'm going to start with that, right? Like your history starts as an actuary. When we met, you were just beginning to get into the world of client development, as was I.
Yeah.
You were a teacher and mentor to me. And then at some point, you decided to leave and start your own company, teaching some of the things that you had learned along the way. And I know that's a great story. I will let you tell it. Now that you're the best-selling author of 2 books, you're an entrepreneur, but I think you also have a lot of valuable things to share with people who are trying to grow a business and do things like sales and client development and all that good stuff. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think, I know we're going to talk a lot about how to grow a business. We're going to talk about fear and how to push through those things. And I'm really excited. It's funny, Jeff. I thought you were my mentor. I didn't know it was the other way.
Oh, no. No, that is like way beyond kind. No, I still remember talking in the Atlanta office, and I had just become a
Yeah.
new managing consultant, and you were the
Yeah,
guy that
you
was just
moved.
like, "You're going to show me how to do this," and
Yeah.
yeah, and we
Well,
figured it out
well, and you
before you
did quite.
systematized everything and turned it into a company.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's actually a neat jumping off point where, you mentioned I was an actuary. Of course, I don't do that anymore, but I took all the exams to become an FSA, Fellow Society of Actuaries, and moved over to that managing consulting role where in a day I went from like an inch wide and a mile deep. I was doing healthcare actuarial work, and there were spreadsheets sometimes so complicated that when I hit F9, when I hit calc, I knew I had about 30 minutes that had to go talk to people because it took that
Uh-huh.
long for the spreadsheet to calculate. And in that one day, I went from that narrow, deep role to shallow, wide role where I was, which you
Yeah.
had to do too, where we had to go out and interface with chief human resource officers at Fortune 50 companies that at that point were at least 30 years older than me. And I had to
Yeah.
represent literally 3, 4, 500 different offerings we had that I knew nothing about. Man, that was like jumping in the deep end. You had to do it
Right.
too.
Right.
And to go through that and learn that the only power I had was generosity and to deepen relationships and try to be helpful because I didn't have content expertise for what I was talking about. That was like an initial learning. Of course, it got systematized. We'll talk about it today, but to learn that to lead with generosity, to lead with questions, to try to find ways to be helpful to people is just like the master key to success.
Yeah. I did a little bit of what you were doing at Hewitt, kind of teaching people in the various product lines, because
Yeah,
some of it was like teaching them how to sell their own services, right? And I was in a role at Fidelity, my last corporate role, where I was doing that a little bit and just
I
getting people
remember.
to ask questions that they didn't know the answer to. It was like a huge shift. It's like, no, you don't, they don't even know the answer. Like the value is in the asking of the question. And that was like a game changer for people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. At this point now, 20 years, it'll be in December, will be 20 years since I started big, Bunnell Idea Group, and we trained 60,000 people at this point. I would say one of the most common things that we hear people say between the before and after they go through our workshops, speeches, training, coaching, whatever, is that I was self-centered and now I'm other-centered. I
Uh,
was leading with our expertise, our accolades, a 22-page PowerPoint that says all about how great we are. And now
yeah.
I go in with everybody's got it. And
Yeah.
now I go in with questions. And of course, I have to prepare for those. They're different every time and all those other things. Of course, we have a rubric to teach that and things. But if I go into a conversation with questions and if I can put the spotlight on them, if I can learn their priorities and their words, then
Yeah.
hang what I do off that, that's the winning move. It feels better for them. It feels better for us. It's like it's actually being a human being
Yeah.
than a slimy
Yeah.
salesperson.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So you mentioned 20 years. take us back. So you'd spent this time at Hewitt, you'd been in this managing consultant role. I think you had a couple roles after that. And at some point you decide, hey, you know what? I think I want to do this outside of Hewitt Associates. I think I want to start something of my own. Like what prompted you to think that was even a possibility, and how did you get the courage to do it?
I'm still not sure. The moment I still don't know how I did it, but the moment I remember is there's two. One was I was at this point had my own clients and things like that, but I was already leading a chunk of the US. We called it like sales and accounts leadership team, SALT, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I was flying back from our headquarters, Lincolnshire, to my home in Atlanta. And man, it was like a grinding couple days of like doing all kinds of leadership-y stuff where we are looking at
Mhm.
the modifying the sales comp plan, all these other things. And I really liked being with clients. I didn't feel like and I loved the team I was on. I loved my boss, a guy named Mike. I loved Duffy, these other people that were on the team, people you
Oh
know.
yeah.
But I didn't feel like I was making a difference at that level. It just was, these are really important roles, but for me, it didn't feel like I was really moving things forward. And we're flying back, circling. There's weather in Atlanta, and it's like I'm already tired. It's going to be late. That we're delayed.
Yeah.
All these other things, and I just wrote this list of things that I wanted in life. And they were things like, I want to create something of my own. I want to have freedom to be able to quickly make decisions and not have to check with 1,000 people. There was just a whole list of things. I still have it. And that created this like future fuzzy vision. I didn't know what it
Uh-huh.
was. That was
Uh-huh.
thing one. And then thing two, I was at a lunch one day with a guy named Trey, a really close friend, and I was sharing that I was thinking about doing something, I didn't know what. And he asked me the question. We're just having a cheeseburger. And
Uh-huh.
he's like, well, who do you know now that you would want to be them?
Ah.
I was like, whoa, that was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, well, it's my friend Jim Buckley. He owns this vintage clothing company. It's like he has all this freedom. His margins are like 92.3% net, like it's crazy. He's like, why don't you do something with Jim? And
Mm.
so
I was
so
wondering how the clothing store, because when I saw you do that, it was like, what?
it was a little left turn at Albuquerque, but
Yeah.
yeah, to go from a managing consultant and leader of consultants, stuff like that. But if I'm honest with myself, Jeff, I didn't have the guts to start something on my own.
Uh-huh.
I needed like a bridge. I needed to join hands with somebody that I liked and trusted, and he had a business.
Yeah.
So he had this one store that was ridiculously profitable. I felt like I had big company expertise. So I said, well, why don't we franchise it? I'll learn franchise law and all these other things, and
Yeah.
maybe we can sort of create the blueprint for what the crazy success he's had, and maybe we can franchise this. And we did. And for a couple of
Uh-huh.
years, we went out and did that, and it was great. There's a longer story to it, but at some point, it was clear it wasn't what I wanted to do. But
Uh-huh.
after about 2.5 years, then I had the guts to say no. I like this business development stuff. I love training others in relationship
Uh-huh.
development. So that's
Were
sort of it's
were
a longer
you like
story, but yep,
were you creating the material, the processes for Big when you were doing the clothing store? So
I
it gave you
was.
kind of a runway to do that as well.
Yeah, Jim was really like he didn't care if I did other things, and we
Yeah.
mostly sent up Bottle Idea Group to pay for health care for our family because we didn't want to do that out of the franchise business because there wasn't any money. So I thought, well, maybe I'll do a little consulting, and it was weird, Jeff. Like here we were trying to grow this clothing business. It was doing fine, but then
Yeah.
the collapse of 2008 happened, and
Uh-huh.
it just got really ground to a halt. Meanwhile, I'm trying not to do this business development training, and people keep calling me. And it
Oh,
was
isn't
actually
that
really,
interesting?
and it was really fun, and I was making a
Yeah.
difference. And it just, so at some point, we just decided, hey, Jim, I'll sell you my shares for this thing we've built, but which you paid a little bit, not a lot, but that gave me some funding to really launch Bunnell
Yeah.
Idea Group, and when it was my only thing.
So why didn't you want to do that? You said you were kind of building this thing and you didn't want to do it, but keep like what was that about?
I think. It's a great question. I don't know that I've ever thought about it. I think I wanted to do one thing and not be scattered.
Uh-huh.
And I'd chosen this one thing to do this franchise business with Jim. So I'm sort of an all in or all out kind of guy, and I felt
Yeah.
like I had a foot in two different, very different things. So I kept not trying to grow the Bunnell Idea Group stuff, and it just kept growing. But that was a signal. I think sometimes in
Yeah.
life, if I was
Totally.
smarter, I would have noticed it sooner. But I kept resisting for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so what's the point where you say, "Hey, I'm going to turn this into a business." And what did that look like for you?
It looked like in it looked like the stupidest decision I'd ever made in my life, and I'm not joking.
Your path and my
Early
path have a lot in common, by the way, on
yeah,
both of these fronts. Yeah.
l looking back, thank goodness it happened, but this was painful. Easily the toughest time I can remember, other than health issues. Um, Early September 2008, for whatever reason, I took almost all of our liquid cash and paid down a home equity line of credit.
Ooh,
Well, guess
wow.
what? Guess what happened in
Oh, yeah.
mid-September? Those got
Yeah.
frozen.
It's
Yeah,
yeah.
our
Yeah.
house lost 25% of its value in a day.
All
In
your
the month.
cash is gone and you don't have access to
Yeah,
any more.
yeah. That little paper checkbook in my mind, I thought, oh, I can just write a check. It's just like a checkbook. I can have access to this anytime.
Yeah.
I literally, Jeff, I went from liquid to illiquid completely. My wife does these 50 and 100-mile horse races called endurance racing.
Uh-huh.
We had little kids at home. They had events. So I usually go and crew for her. But at the time, kids had stuff that weekend. So she went off on her own. She's riding a horse race. I'm dealing with two young girls. I would then put them to bed at 8 or whatever. I was running spreadsheets till like 2 a.m., figuring out how much money we had. And I was
Wow.
doing all these analysis like I'm like
Yeah.
the well, I'll skip over bad words, but we were in a bad place.
Bad words are okay. But
Yeah. Well, here's the bad word part without the bad word is I finally figured the money out, and we had almost exactly, I'll never forget this number because it's a round number. We had almost exactly 100 days of cash.
wow.
100 days.
Yeah.
And it's that I think sometimes our most important part of our lives are the lowest points. If
Yeah.
we can climb out of them, that's when all the learnings are, a lot of them. And that's when I had to really make a decision and said, the franchise business had ground to a halt because most people were funding them out of home equity lines of credit, so they didn't have that. And then I only
Yeah.
had 100 days because of my stupid move. So I only had one choice.
But it sure
If
looked smart at the time. You were being responsible.
it maybe I was, but it was also very painful to imagine my wife who had to sell her horse
Oh, wow. Yeah.
because, which is like one of the hardest things in my life was driving halfway in between where somebody in Tennessee was buying the horse and us trailering Bailey up there. The horse name is Bailey. And I have to go distract the girls because Becky is
Oh,
selling her easily most beloved possession. And I knew it was my fault.
mm,
So yeah, did I rally? Did we make it out? Sure did. Um, but there was 3, 4, 5, 6 months there where it was not fun. Um,
yeah.
by the way, speaking of the power of relationships, what we teach, I'd made it a point. I had this like manifesty like vision that I was going to get that damn horse back. And I made
Um,
it a point to share me personally to share contact information with the gal who bought Bailey.
uh,
And the second we had the money again, I thought I called her. I
uh,
said, I know that Bailey likely isn't for sale because she got her for a song and got the horse for a
yeah.
song. And horse is one of the best endurance racers in the country. Becky got sixth in the nation in a 100-mile
Wow.
endurance race. So this horse is highly valuable, and we had to sell the horse for nothing because in that time nobody had any money in 2008, 2009. And she said, I've been thinking about it. I'm glad you called. I think the horse belongs with Becky, and I'd like to sell back to you. So it Bailey's right out there. I can see him right now in the
Oh, you
backyard.
still have Bailey. That's awesome.
14 years later, whatever, 16 years later. But anyway, that's the story.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So what were your, like, how did you kind of have to figure it out. You're in a tight place, right? Like, who'd you call first? Like, how did you get business at a time when people were not free with cash by any means?
Well, that's a good point. Is the economy was taking. The good news is I was very small, so the denominator was tiny, so I didn't need
Mhm.
much because we cut all the costs we could. Um, well, one thing that good or bad that I do instinctively when times are tough, because we all hit these times, is and I think this is just good for anybody, is to pull everything back to what you can control. So I had this like spreadsheet of everybody I could think of that would take a meeting with me,
Yeah.
and and what can I offer of value to them? A lot of
Hmm.
change was going on. I had a perspective. I had some methodology at the time, nothing like we do now, but had some
Right.
content. How can we get through this? Consulting firm, law firm, whoever. And I just started calling people and giving away our content for free and brainstorming with people. And
Hmm.
meeting after meeting after meeting, some things unlocked. And then I had actually a really, really good year the next year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, um, I think different people have different philosophies around this idea, and I know you have, give to grow and give to get, and that's kind of one of your ideas.
Yep.
Do you like, how do you know when to just give, and when to say, hey, we could go a lot deeper into this for you? Is that
Yep.
something that would be of interest to you? Like, what's that? Like, do they initiate? Do you initiate? Like, how do you systematize that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Such a great question. And there's a little, I mean, this is like a half a page in our bestseller Give to Grow that talks about this, but it's so important. I wish it could be almost be like a whole chapter. And the idea is that it's clear to me and in the research that giving first is the master key to success.
Hmm.
It's like we talked about before. It's like switching from selfish to otherish. How can I be helpful? And always leading with the other person, leading with whatever way that we can be helpful to them. It usually involves us discovering what their priorities are, especially if we can get to know
Hmm.
them in their words, and then being able to say that magical phrase we said at Hewitt a lot back in the day. Would it be helpful if I blank? So we're going to
Yeah.
lead with generosity. And the way that you know what you should take meeting one to meeting two, or 7 to 8, or whatever it is to look for fast yeses and fast nos.
Hmm.
So I'll do air quotes here. What a lot of salespeople do that completely shoots themselves in the foot is they say, "Hey, can I send you a proposal on that?"
Right.
Well, the problem with that is it's in a way it's a giving, but you have no idea if they're interested or not. So
Right.
a better move might be at the end of meeting one. It looked like there's some strategic fit here. There's a next chapter in the book to say, hey, would it be helpful if we got together again and we can sort of scope out how I might be able to help you on this in a programmatic fashion, and well, I'll send you over the blueprint, whatever we come up with, and you can, regardless of if you hire us or not, it's going to give you a roadmap to success. You might even be able to deploy it with internal resources, but I'd be happy to do that to invest in your success. Would that be helpful?
Uh, yeah.
Well, if the person's not going to meet with you again, they were never going to read the proposal anyway. Fast
Right.
no. If they're excited about meeting, you can see this in people. You can just tell if they're sort of mediocre excited or like super excited. Man, if they're super excited, either way, you fulfill the promise. But then you know how much energy you're going to put into that meeting, and at the
Hmm.
end of that, there's another fast yes and fast no. The idea is to ask for, when we're giving all the time, to also ask, we're making an escalating commitment. We also want to ask them for a little escalating commitment.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
if
So
they
what
and
you're
if they like it,
doing,
great.
yeah, you're giving something, but that giving is requiring effort and investment of time and investment of thought on their part. So they're not going to follow you unless they're, to some extent bought in.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
the three best ways for escalating commitment, there's an order to it, is the best is if they pay you money. even if it's
Uh-huh.
a nominal amount, you have to get contracts signed. There's a little skin in the game.
Right.
That's not always the thing to ask for. So if that's not right, then I think down to, can they pay me in time?
Hmm.
Are we going to whiteboard what the solution looks like together versus me
Yeah.
going off and doing all the work and they don't do anything? Hey, they're just going to
Right.
have to spend 30 or 60 minutes, but they know things I don't know. Like I can
Yeah.
sketch out the plan, but there might be some date changes or team members they want involved or a
Right.
certain way of payment or whatever. So that second thing, paying time. And the third level, which can also work, is payment and social capital. So
Mm.
that's where, hey, I don't think it's time to scope out a proposal yet, but could I introduce you to my boss? Because I think she'd really like to meet you, and I'd like to just have the same conversation with my boss. Yeah, that'd be great. So if somebody wants to pay in money, time, or social capital, those are those escalating commitments I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If they keep upping their stake, I'll keep upping my stake and keep giving. If they won't, that's fine. Quick off ramp, and you can still drop back to staying in touch, but you're not going to
Right.
keep plowing time and time and time into it.
And when do you know, other than them saying it, that it's time to make a significant financial proposal?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a story. Somebody that has a PE firm introduced me to a portfolio company this morning. We just had breakfast. So he was with her, the CEO, for like 30 minutes, and then he asked me to come 30 minutes in, and he had teed this up with her and things like that. Well, Jeff, you could tell like she moves fast. Like we
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
sketched like I was listening to what's going on and had some
Yeah.
ideas on how to do things, and we just sketched out like really ugly drawings of phase one, phase two. Here's how we'd work
Uh-huh.
together over 3 years because she's got a pretty big transformation she needs. That all happened in like 25 minutes,
Right.
and we are aligned. She's like, I'm really excited about this, and you could tell like she had said, "Hey, I got to go in a second." There was a little hesitation in my mind because it felt a little early, but I could also tell she likes to move fast. So I
Uh-huh.
asked her, hey, person's name, would it be helpful to talk at least in rough numbers what the investment would look like for something like this? Totally fine if you want to wait till later. And she said,
Yeah.
no, I actually really want to know that. So, okay.
Yeah.
So I gave her a big range.
Uh-huh.
But I was doing quick math in my head. And I think with 90% certainty, we'd land in
You're an
that.
actuary. You can do these things.
I did the math. So she was really appreciative. So in that case, it
Yeah.
was within 24
Yeah.
and a half minutes when we talked
Right.
money. There's
Right.
other times it's not till like the fourth call. I think there's a read the room part of it. I
Yeah.
think a lot of times people hesitate to bring up money. It's this taboo kind of subject. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times what we can do is broach that and just say, hey, we don't have to now, but would it be helpful to know at least in broad ranges? And then we've broached the topic and they can choose how deep they want to go.
I love that question. Yeah. I do a fair amount of mentoring of other coaches. And like this
I'll
topic
bet.
comes up all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a guy who has become a good friend of mine. And we discovered that he was actually using the proposal as like an escape hatch, like it like
Meaning,
relieved. So he was like, would you like a proposal? And then when you think about it from the mind, like what better way to get rid of someone who you don't want to talk to than say,
yeah,
yeah, email me a
sure.
proposal. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, they want to work with me. And they're thinking, oh, I got rid of that guy. And as soon as he saw that dynamic, it's like, what are you doing? Never email a proposal. Like
No.
always talk through it, always get a
Oh,
real
yeah.
conversation going. Yeah.
Yeah. If the first time they're seeing dollars and cents is in the written proposal, that is horrible. Like,
Right.
that's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
To your point. So the way sometimes people will say, like, if I said, hey, would it be helpful? Or what another way to say it would be what most of our, let's say somebody's interested in a first conversation
Yeah.
and it's real natural. It's clear there's alignment here. One way to move forward would be to say, hey, what most of our clients do next is we have about a 30-minute discovery call. I'm going to play back and document everything we've already talked about. So I'm going to send that over. It's probably going to be 80% right. It's probably going to need a little review from your side. You know, they're paying in time.
Yeah.
And what we do in that next 30-minute meeting is we go through 4 questions. One is I want to really pin down the goals that, say I'm a coach,
Uh,
that we would accomplish working together. The second thing is I'd like to talk about timing. Sometimes it makes sense to have a short burst of coaching at a faster cadence in the beginning and then a little more elongated later. There's some different ways to do it. I'm going to send over a draft of that hits the goals. And then together, let's also talk about, like, relationship wise, what
Mhm.
style of coaching do you want? Do you want directed in your face, a little more nuanced? Let's talk about that. And then the fourth thing we usually talk about is based on those goals and the timing and the number of sessions and all that and the style.
Yeah.
Then I could probably pretty quickly come up with a budgetary range and we can talk through that. How does that sound? And
Uh-huh.
there's something about the logic of those four things: the goals, the process, the style, if you will, the vibe, and the
Yeah.
money, that everybody just agrees those are the things to talk about. You can
Uh-huh.
usually do that verbally, turn it into a proposal right after it. And by the time they read the proposal, they love it because their words are help create it.
Right. 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 That's awesome. Okay. Let's change topic just for a little bit. I could talk about this stuff for a long time, but so you're going out, you've got these relationships, you're calling anyone who'll take a call. And, obviously you get some business and obviously it starts to grow, it begins to get some traction. Um, what does that look like for you initially? And when do you decide, hey, this isn't just Mo Bunnell. This requires, you know, an assistant. It requires people to do the training. It requires, like, how do you go through those growth processes? And how did you know? I mean, that to me would seem like another threshold where it's like, this feels significant. I'm a little bit scared, but I'm going to do
Yep,
it. Like, how'd you make that choice?
that's a great question. Um, I'm not, well, I'll say this way: I didn't do it well in the beginning. Couple just home run hires, people that are still with us to this day, were great, but made a couple hires that people just asked to work for me. And I would just say yes, because if
Oh,
I'm honest, I just felt like who would want to work for us. We're small or whatever at the time. And I just said yes to some people who just did not have the caliber of talent that we would need. But over time, we've gotten better at that. But
yeah.
I did not realize how important I didn't realize that we were doing something really special that people would want to be a part of in the beginning. I do now.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I made a lot of hiring mistakes. Um, I guess, and I know this is a simplistic answer, but it was just sort of like one click at a time.
Yeah.
I have this model where there's four major parts of a business. One is, and I think of this as like scaffolding or the infrastructure underneath. So in my mind, it's sort of like a long box on the bottom with three
Uh-huh.
boxes on top. The long box on the bottom is our solution. Like,
Uh-huh.
is it really world class? Is it differentiable in the first 5 minutes somebody sees it? Can
Mhm.
they look at what you do and they're like, oh, you're different.
Uh-huh.
So it took hiring instructional designers, graphic designers, all kinds of folks to build that out. That was job one, is like truly come up with a great solution. If you don't have a great solution, you're going to be a commodity. So that's thing one.
Yeah.
Once you build that out, then these three boxes that I visualize on top of the long box underneath is pre-business development, delivery.
Uh-huh.
Pre-business development really is marketing, but I like the word pre-BD better. Not only does it rhyme, but I think marketing has a bad name. Like, hey,
Yeah.
half our marketing works, we don't know which half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pre-BD, the goal is to add so much value in the marketplace, you overwhelm the BD team.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
The job of business development is to be so damn helpful. You have ridiculously high flow through rates to being hired, delivery,
Uh-huh.
and the third box, and and to be really, really good at it and precise and have a bit of a system around it. To be able to say on a 30-minute call that for the first time you met somebody, you want to be able to say, would it be helpful if we, like, 4, 5, 6 times? Like, you're just adding so much value. They hang up the call and they're like, I felt like I talked to them for 3 hours. I got so much value out of what their insights and what they offered. I'm looking forward to the next meeting. That's
Yeah.
BD. Then the job of delivery is to have a team that can deliver on all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
That could be a manufacturing plant. For us, it's people that fly around the
Yeah.
world and do sessions. So those four ideas: is our solution really great? And then pre-BD, are enough people finding out about us? The
Mhm.
enemy is obscurity. How can we get people predisposed to, because we've added so much value out in the world, they want to meet us? business development, delivery.
How did you do
I'm
that
always
first
thinking,
part? For big, how did you? Because I mean, I think about coaches and consultants who are kind of like solopreneurs, and they've got a network and they've got people who know their stuff, but they don't necessarily have that broader recognition. I mean, you can build that by word of mouth, you can build that by repeat business,
yep,
but I think you went beyond that. And how did you think about that?
it was a bunch of experiments. So
Uh-huh.
like right now, if I just think of the last year, we tried YouTube. We spent
Uh-huh.
100, $200,000 with
Really? Wow.
expert. Yeah, and it didn't work at all. Like just money
Huh.
down the drain.
Huh.
On the in hiring the best of the best. Our partner, I would recommend him to anybody, but for whatever reason, our audience isn't at least
Your
searching
audience
for
wasn't
business
on YouTube.
development on
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah.
second biggest search engine in the world. I would have bet $1 million it was going to
Yeah.
take off. Just didn't. We
Well,
had
and
some
you're
videos with
really
a
great on video too, and it's it's clear you're comfortable with it. You're very conversational. You're very engaging. I would think if anyone could make that work on YouTube, it would be you. And so it's really surprising to me that.
well, let's not forget really good looking. I mean, wouldn't you say? I mean, like, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm bald. But yeah, I would have guessed it would have worked too, Jeff. It didn't. It was a
Yeah.
fail. Even our producer editor said, "I don't know what's going on here. We're
Yeah.
producing some really good." We were proud of the content. Well, on the other hand, LinkedIn, it's
Hmm.
crushing right now. We're in
Huh.
it's a hard time to build an audience on LinkedIn. We're typically getting 500,000, 1 million views a week or impressions
Wow.
because we're doing densely populated infographics. We're getting 10, 15, 20 leads a week because
Uh-huh.
people are like, I can't believe how good this is. What do you do? Hadn't heard about you. And so I feel like I think with any of these areas, especially pre-BD, we can call it marketing. If we think of your coaches, you just have to run tiny experiments
Yeah.
and figure out who's my audience, what's the content they need, what platforms are they on, how can I give them
Yeah.
so much content and it's so valuable that they're predisposed to want to use me before they even meet me. I think
Hmm.
that's what we want to do.
And how does the person who's running, let's say, a roofing company, allocate enough time when they're also managing projects, managing current clients, managing their business, trying to, deal with all the day-to-day fires that they need to fight? How do you create that headspace to think long term enough to be able to do that? Because all that sounds great, but I only have so much time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would one of our mantras we talk a lot about is think big, start small, scale up. So think big, we're going to get the team together. We're going to think of an idea that we think is really going to go exponential. In
Uh-huh.
my mind, I thought YouTube would do great, didn't, but LinkedIn did. So does our podcast, 600 and some episodes. Like it's had millions of views. That one's worth it. So you think big. I've got this big idea. I'm gonna do it right. A plus. Like you go all
Mhm.
in, but then you start small, and maybe that starts with an hour a week. Maybe it's a blog that we're going to write on the things that you need to think about when a hurricane hits your house, or a
Yeah.
seven-step checklist to evaluate if your roof is going to be covered under insurance or whatever.
Yeah.
And then just put that blog post out there, have that interview, write that content, put it on Facebook, whatever, and then scale up from there. If it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't
Mhm.
work, quit doing it. And then
Right.
once you get something scaled up where it's working, now you can show economic value, and then you can start to outsource some of that. So now you can hire an expert that's going to help you do it more, do it better, do it faster, whatever. But you only do that after the money's coming in and there's a flywheel there.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I love this because one of the things that I teach my clients is I've got a tool that I call Pick Now, which is pretty obvious, just like get into action, right?
Oh, I love it.
Like
Yeah. I wondered if
you,
that was the name. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, every entrepreneur that I run into, they try to analyze things like 3, 4 steps ahead. They think they can figure it all out before. Like
Yeah.
we used to do this at Hewitt. We would design these products and these services without ever having a conversation with a prospect. And then they would say, "What'd you do that for? We're not interested in that." And so it's
Yeah.
like, take that small action, Don't try to plan it all out ahead. Take that small action, get some feedback on it from the real world, whatever that happens to look like. And then
Yeah.
the next small action will become apparent. And then you do that, and then you keep going. And I think, I mean, it's beautifully simple, and people still struggle with like implementing it. Like taking the very first step feels very threatening. And then it's like, well, I tried it and it didn't work. It's like, well, how much time did you actually give it? And so how do you know, like, like if I were to say to you, Mo, you spent $100,000 on YouTube, and I bet there is something that you learned about yourself and about the business that you could not have learned any other way. What was that thing?
Oh, that's really good. Um, can I ask you a question first? And I'll come
Yeah.
back to it, I promise.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like really, my brain just halted when you reminded me of the show's called Pick Now. Did you choose Pick Now because that's the number one thing you see people struggle with? That they're being perfectionist
So it's
or
interesting.
hesitate? Yeah.
I had some advice on this. I'm working with some people around, my producing my podcast and some other things around my own kind of scaling efforts. And the guy who I'm working with, a guy out in New York, said something really insightful to me. He said, "What's the one thing that most often gets in the way of people working with you?" And I said, "Well, they're too busy." They'll say, "Jeff, I love the work you're doing. I would love to have some time to really go deep on this. I know I'm getting in my own way, but right now it's just so busy. Call me next quarter, call me in 6 months. Let's stay in touch." He said, "Solve that problem and you will have more clients than you know what to do with." And so that was the idea behind Pick Now. Like,
Yeah.
how do I solve the biggest problem getting in the way of people working with me?
Well, and it totally makes sense, because entrepreneurs and the people that like you coach people that are scaling up, you coach people that are already had a big exit and they got to pick now again to
Yeah,
redefine the next phase,
exactly,
right?
which is even
It's
scarier for a lot of them.
I'll
Yeah,
bet. Yeah, their
yeah,
identity is probably all wrapped up, and you help them through the huge mental and emotional and family transition. Um, that makes total sense. But I could also think that a lot of those folks are perfectionist. Probably isn't the right word, but dedicated to like
yeah,
dialed up to 11, and
yeah.
worried about their families, worried about their employees because they built some big thing or they're building some big thing. So making a choice sometimes might be
Right, and the
hard.
bigger it gets, the more it feels like it's at stake, and the more
Yep.
impact, the more people every decision impacts. Yeah,
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay. All right. I had to know that. All right. So to circle back to your question around how do you know when something is like it's time to let go?
yeah.
Um, there's an interesting framework we use in our training coaching, and it covers the four major ways that people prefer to think.
Mm.
And there's two opposing pairs to get
Yeah,
up to
I've
the
seen
four.
I've seen this, but I need the reminder because I
Yeah,
remember you talking about this. Yeah,
it's so good, and it's interwoven in all of our trainings and coaching things. It's called the HBDI model, Herman Brain Dominance Instrument. It's so good. But the two opposing pairs are some people like thinking in big ideas, and some people really like thinking, how are we actually going to get that big idea done? You
uh,
need both. They're both
yeah,
equal.
yeah,
Vision, path to get to vision. The other two opposing pairs are thinking analytics, economics, statistics, numerical logic. Lawyers
uh,
thinking more word logic,
yeah,
actuaries thinking more math logic. And then the opposite of those facts are feelings. How reading
uh,
the room, how's everybody feeling right now? What's the energy like? What's the vibe? Squishy stuff. And I think one of the signals we can look for as entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders is how are we doing in all those four quadrants around certain initiatives. So when it
mhm,
came to the podcast, you could look at numbers. Like we had our
right,
first episode had like 8,000 views. We're like, hey, this is pretty good, it's going to go up.
yeah,
They didn't go up, they went down.
ah,
Other than
wow,
the give to go trailer has like 150,000 views. Throw that out.
yeah,
It's shorter. All the other content videos actually were declining. Um, on the emotional side of it, I just wasn't excited about it anymore. Like it's really
uh-huh,
hard
yeah,
work to
yeah,
do these and say the words exactly right. It's not like this where we're live and people are forgiving. Man, on YouTube, if you have any fluff, somebody just
yeah,
presses pause and goes on to the next one. So you
Yeah.
have to, the stakes and the precision of how you have to do it is ridiculously hard.
Mhm.
Um, so those two were going down. Strategically, I just I don't think it turned into one lead after a year and 40 episodes
Wow.
or something. Like literally, like it just wasn't aligned. We were already getting more traction out of LinkedIn. We're doing it for like 3 weeks.
So
In a
YouTube, you were doing kind of a video podcast? Like what were you doing on YouTube?
They were like you might see a lot of nonfiction authors right now. A trend on YouTube is like, give me 22 minutes and I'll give you 30 years of experience. Um,
Uh-huh.
the top three things you need to do to succeed at business development. It was a lot of like content I'm like actually really proud of.
Right,
It
really
just
deep
didn't take
content
off.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
and yeah.
very how to.
Uh-huh. And so what did you learn about yourself in the business that you couldn't have learned any other way? That was the best $100,000 you could have spent.
Yeah, that's a great way to reframe it. I think this is similar to one of the learnings about writing a couple books, but there's something around having to speak or write in a ridiculously precise, no fluff kind of way that just
Uh-huh.
makes you better at speaking and writing.
Yeah.
It's a similar, but the podcast, or excuse me, the YouTube version of that was a little different flavor than the writing version, where you write, you rewrite, you rewrite. You could just chisel away until only the best remains. And you have to go through 16, 18, 20 revisions of a manuscript till the book is really good. You know, our book, Snowball System and Give to Grow, literally, I bet each chapter went through at least 20 revisions, maybe
Wow.
more.
Wow.
Podcast was similar, but or excuse me, YouTube was similar, but in a different way. It was more like that, but for speaking.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. And so now to go back to the company, and you're building the company step by step. And, at some point, like when did it occur to you to write the snowball system? Like, because that's another big leap. It's a big investment of time. You don't know if it's going to work out.
Books are scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd always sort of wanted to write a book, and I had no idea how long it would take. And
And you went the old school, I'm going to get a publishing deal route, right? You didn't like self-publish a 50-page pamphlet. You went all in.
yeah, so that means, and talk about fear. So I wrote a book. So how you go down traditional publishing route is you write a book proposal. Most people think you write the book first. You actually don't. You write a business plan for the book. It's called a book
Mhm.
proposal. And so I bought a book called How to Write a Nonfiction Business Book Proposal because I thought that would be a good place to start. So we followed it to a T. We had our whole team helping us at this. We had a bunch of employees at this point in time. We had an analyst over the summer. He ran a bunch of numbers, wickedly smart guy. And we wrote a pretty good proposal. And I knew exactly the agent I wanted. Her name's Lisa
Uh-huh.
DeMona. She's James Clear's agent for Atomic Habits, a whole bunch of best-selling folks.
So how did
Uh,
you get to her?
oh, I just emailed her, I think, off her
Really?
website. Yeah. So
You didn't need someone like vouching for you, saying, "Hey, this is my buddy Mo. He's the real deal. Have a conversation with him." Because I would think
well,
these people get all kinds of proposals from all
yeah,
over the place.
yeah, I don't remember. I don't think I knew anybody. I can't remember now.
Uh-huh.
So this would have been like 2016 or something. It's like 10 years ago as we record this. But I emailed her. We actually had a call, and she said, "I'm really excited about this. Get this book proposal. You said it's going to be done in a month or whatever. This is great." And Jeff, and so like a month later, I'm like, "This is going to be awesome." And emailed it to her. Didn't hear back. Didn't hear back. Didn't hear back. A couple weeks later, so I emailed and said, "Hey, what did you think?" And
Uh-huh.
she sends like a 3-line email back that basically says, "Hey, I'm gonna have to pass on this. I just don't think it's a good fit."
Wow.
And Jeff, my heart just like it hit the floor. I was at work, heart hit the floor. I emailed her. The only thing I could think of was it's always my move. I should at least learn from this. Can I get some feedback? So I sent a quick note back, said, is there a chance you can call me or can we have a call? It is. This is like out of a Hemingway novel. I'm driving home. It's pouring down rain. I'm about to die. I'm worried about him in a hydroplane. The hydroplaning wasn't a Hemingway novel, but it was always rainy when bad things were happening. And I get a call on my phone. I got a New York number. It's a 212 number. I thought, I wonder if it's Lisa. So I answer. It's Lisa. I just was pulling up into the garage at the house we had at the time had a detached garage. So I'm running through the rain. It is raining so hard. I'm completely soaked in like the 20 feet between buildings. I go in. Becky's like, "How you doing?" I'm just like shaking her off, and I'm
Yeah,
flooring,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm running back to a quiet place in the house. And basically, we talked for about 20 minutes, and she just basically said, "I think you're ready to write a book, but this proposal isn't going to get a good deal, and I've only got time for good deals." So I said, "Well, how do I make it better?" I'm condensing a 20-minute call into 1 minute. But she said, "Well, have you thought about hiring an expert that helps people write book proposals?" I'm like, "I didn't even know that was a
That's a
thing."
thing? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We got 3 people. We hired this guy named Dave Moldauer. He's fantastic. He's become one of my best friends in the world. And he wouldn't even look at what I wrote. I think he heard it was so bad from Lisa. He didn't want to look at it. We started from scratch, then another 5 months to wait to get that done. We sent it to Lisa. She said, "I'm on board. Let's go."
Uh-huh.
And once you get a great agent, like they know
Uh-huh.
everybody. And then we were able to land a nice deal and Snowball System was born.
So what I love about this story, Mo, is that would have stopped most people dead in their tracks. They would have said, I guess I'm not a book. They would have made it about identity, right? I guess
Yeah.
I'm not a book writer. I
Maybe
guess I'm not
Lisa's
this.
wrong. She doesn't
Yeah, I
understand. You're right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you said, yeah, like there is a ground of commitment there. It's like, no, I'm going to figure out how to make this work. I'm committed to write. I committed to writing a book. I'm going to commit to write a book. And everything that happens along the way, I'm going to learn from it so that eventually I'm going to write a book. And I'm sure there were other steps there. And you talked about the 20 revisions of each chapter, right? That's
Mm,
why most people don't write books. Most people would love to be an author and have no interest in actually writing a book.
I think you're right.
And that's true for many, many things. It's
Yeah.
just like the day-to-day practice and getting knocked over and dusting yourself off and doing the next thing.
Yeah. And then what's really neat about that story is Snowball System won a bunch of awards and things like that, which was awesome. But it did what it was supposed to do. It brought in millions and millions of dollars into the training business because it was
And
because
so did your business, so you had this business of, you're training like financial professionals and lawyers and consultants and all these kind of subject matter experts that have responsibility for also selling their services. That's your niche. Did the business change fundamentally or did it just grow exponentially? Like what happened because of the book?
it did change a lot. I was trying to think what I can share publicly, and I think I can just share this whole story. I don't know that I've ever done it publicly, but um, we were in the later stages of Snowball System, and I had an advanced reader copy. It's called an ARC, um,
Uh-huh.
and so it's like a cheaply printed paperback version of the book. It's pretty much all the way done, but you print those early before you do a full hardcover print run
Right.
because you want to send them to people mostly for blurbs and endorsements and things like that. So I had like one of these, and I had it in my bag, and I was meeting with the global head of growth at Sotheby's, the high-end art auctioneer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we had done some work with them a couple years before. We trained their top 500 or so experts all around the world in all their 70 plus different categories on how to grow their book of business, whether they're an impressionist category or watches or wine or cars or whatever.
Mhm.
Super cool work to like walk down the hall past a Rothko painting and then go give a class,
Yeah.
teach a class.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Um, anyway, we had gone dormant because there'd been some leadership changes. So I have this arc, and I'm now a friend of ours that still there and loved us from the round a couple years before is introducing me to the new growth leader globally. And I had our training materials and things like that. As we just met for like 20, 25 minutes. And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, that's the arc of a new book. We've got it coming out. It's going to come out in a couple of months. It's called Snowball System." He's like, "Okay, I want it." I'm like, "You you can't have it. I've only got one, and I'm supposed to like provide some revisions to the editor, and I need to read that. Like I don't, whatever."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, no, you don't understand. I'm flying to Hong Kong, and I'm leaving in like 5 minutes, and I'm flying out of JFK, and I'll read that on the flight over." He read it on the flight over, and he read it again on the flight back a couple days later. And like, what's magical about a book is you're effectively able to talk to somebody for hours and hours, and you don't have to be
Right.
there. He
Right.
loved it. It's exactly
Yeah.
what they needed. We went master class. We trained a lot of the same people, a lot of new people, but to a higher level. And all that is to say is like when you're doing these think big, start small, scale up. And that point,
Mhm.
the book was almost done. These kind of ideas, these experiments can have huge impact on the business. It was by far the largest contract we had ever signed. So
Wow.
now we've done bigger things since, but it was a game changer for the business. And
Uh-huh.
I think cycling through this idea we've been talking about of run little experiments, visualize some exciting outcome out in the future, the think big part, but not try
Uh,
to go there right away. Just start
uh-huh.
small and do something little, but keep making it a little bit better over and over and over and over again. I think that's and just get up and keep going. I just feel like that's half the success of running a business.
Well, and the other half you just identified without really putting a pin in it, but it's like when you know what direction you're headed toward, and you're not necessarily attached to exactly how am I going to get there, then stuff shows up and it's like, oh, I hadn't even noticed that before. I'd never even talked to this person before. And out of the blue, they mentioned this thing that leads me to this person, that leads me to that opportunity. That it's like there's this magic somehow in the energetically, what, you can go as woo woo or as scientific as you want and make arguments on both sides, right? It's like you pay attention to the world differently when you know where you're headed.
That's exactly right. And whether that's meta and it's your entire life by design, you have some visualization of that, or in this case, just like I want to write a book. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna get feedback. I'm gonna like keep getting back up. I think you're right. Is that something that this idea of having a clear vision of the future? I think that's something you coach a lot about, right?
It is. And it's not, it's like this, there's this art to it because it's not like exactly how it's going to work out, because
Yeah,
if you're figuring out exactly how it's going to work out, you're limiting yourself.
I think you're
Like
right.
having a direction and then being willing to be surprised. I was just talking with a client about this literally before this call. Like we started working together about 3 months ago, and right when we had started working, he was thinking, like, the place that he was coming from was this idea of like, I've got a great business, I've got a great life, things are good enough, I think I'm good. And then we talked about how, yeah, that's fine for now, but like as human beings, we instinctively just want to create and we want to grow. And when we get stale, we get depressed, but it's scary to grow.
Yeah,
And
right.
then this opportunity, like these two guys approached him out of the blue, wanting to like make a significant contribution to growing his business. And it's like, well, that's interesting. Like as soon
Mm.
as you look toward that as a possibility, they show up and they're talking with each other. And like they literally started with this guy 2 days ago. Like he's given them like a tremendous incentive in the business. They're gonna, I mean, all indications are going to be it's wildly successful, and he was scared to even think about that 2 months ago. But he just looked in a little different direction, and these things started showing up. And I think that's available all over the place. And the main thing getting in the way for people is they're not clear on what they want.
Mm.
They'll say
I
they
feel
want something better.
somebody shared this with me one time, and I just thought it was so brilliant, so stuck with me. He said there's three different ways you can live your life. Drift, and there are three D's. Drift.
Huh?
Drift is where you're busy, you wake up every day, you do stuff, you take the kids to soccer practice, pretty soon they graduate college and whatever.
Yeah,
But you can
yeah.
end up in a place where you weren't happy. Driven is the second D, and that's where you're really clear on what you want in one area of life, maybe
Uh,
not in others. And the success in one area can actually harm others, meaning we all know the
Yeah.
person that's super motivated at work, but their family life falls apart. There can be other pairings of these. Um,
Mhm.
but that's driven. But I think the best way, and this is what he thought too, is design. And that's where
Mhm.
we get clear on what we want life to look like somewhere out in the future, but everything intertwined: our health, our
Yeah.
relationships, our family, our work, vocation, finances, everything. And I say clear, but it still might be fuzzy, but we have a general idea at least of where we're headed across all those things, and then
Right.
making consistent progress towards that every day. That,
I Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I do think there's something to be said about timelines. So when you think in a long enough timeline, you may not know exactly where you're going, but for me, it's like, how do I continue to learn and grow and help people see, what they're actually, capable of, as opposed to kind of the small box they've created for ourselves, because we've all created these small boxes that we live in and think they're real.
Agreed.
Um, but if you think long enough term, then all those things begin to balance out, because that it's not sustainable if I don't take care of my body. Well, that's not going to help with my goal for 40 years from now. If I don't take care of my relationships, well, that's not going to help for my goal for 40 years from now. So that balance, I think, just kind of emerges on its own, because it has to, if you're thinking in terms of these longer timelines.
I think that's right. And incorporating the whole picture versus like
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
work or only
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Did you ever think, like, I'm interested in like flipping it back on you a little bit. You've been at this 10 years.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I remember when you said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm leaving Fido. I'm gonna do this coaching thing."
Well,
And
Fidelity laid me off, let's be clear. But yeah.
best thing that ever happened, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
but that said, like, sure, that might have been the, I needed the jumping to Jim's business to be able to feel good about, like,
Right.
sometimes we
Well,
need
and
a
I had
gym.
been thinking about this.
You
Was not a
had,
brand
I
new thing. I've been
remember.
thinking about
Yeah,
it for a while. Yeah,
I
you and I talked
remember.
about. Yeah,
We
you and I
did.
talked about it before I left. Yeah,
Yeah, so you got a little nudge. That's fine.
yeah, yeah. A little
But
nudge from the universe.
you got a little nudge. But you know what? How many coaches make it 10 years, Jeff? Like
Yeah.
one out of 100? I don't know what the number is. You might know from some coaching federation or something. But man, I'll bet it's less than 5% are successful.
The number. Well, it depends on how you define success, of course. But I think you see numbers that are wildly different. But one number that I saw, just to give you a rough idea, is that something like 1% or 5% of coaches even make 100 grand a year.
There you go.
Yeah. And frankly, a lot of it, I think, is a lot. There's a lot of people that go into coaching who haven't really had any success professionally before they decide to become a coach. So yeah, they're gonna flame out pretty quickly.
Yeah. And here you are with a JD, you're a managing consulting at a huge global consulting firm. You led big functions. Um, for you, it was about changing what you're doing day to day to be able to help people in a way that you wanted to help people. You had already had tons of success, but you're right.
Well,
I
and
wonder if
and, and the reason that I had the success, like what I was doing, so I had, and I don't know if you know this story, Mo, but if you go back to my law school days, I was having panic attacks. I was like,
mm,
I, I don't know what D this is. Well, it's definitely the driven D, but it's also driven according to like the path that someone else had told me would make me successful. It wasn't about what do I actually want to do. It's like, what do
yeah,
I need to do to look successful?
yeah, be a
And
lawyer.
yeah, exactly. First lawyer in my family, first this, blah, blah, blah. And it turned into panic attacks and self-medication and
Mm,
stress and all these things. And so I was in Chicago in the 90s when Phil Jackson was coaching the Bulls and talking about meditation. And I started meditating and the panic attacks went away. I started working with spiritual teachers. I had this whole separate life independent of my corporate
I
existence
didn't know
that
that. Yeah,
I kept hidden for a long time.
yeah, because it
And
wasn't
then I
cool at the
realized,
time. Yeah,
yeah, I realized how helpful it was to me. And I wanted to start sharing that with other people. It's like, oh my God,
Mm,
this stuff I know can help all kinds of people. I need to do that. Like that was what, and I got more and more clear about actually owning that. And that's where the business came from. And that's what the reason for the business was. It wasn't like, oh, I'd like to help people with this particular skill or something like that. It was like, no, I want to help people change their lives because
mm,
they are suffering way more than they need to. And it's not about, oh, and I hear this from people. It's like, but if I'm calm, I'll lose my edge. It's like, I have to suffer in order to get the success that I want. Like, no, you don't. In fact, when you actually let go of that, you will be even more successful because you're no longer trying to fit into someone else's blueprint.
mm. You know, this is a little secret that I don't know if I've ever shared publicly. I do it at a coffee shop or something like that. But I think I think the secret behind why people love our training, there's the books we talked about. The training we call Grow Big is the brand name for the training. Train 60,000 people all over the world.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think the secret to why it has grown so fast is because what's underneath all of the techniques of how do you position yourself uniquely, or how do you ask great questions, or even brass tack stuff like how do you prepare for a business development meeting, whatever. What's underneath every single thing in all these modules we teach is generosity,
Yeah,
um, treating other people right, not doing so in a way we think we can grow our business, and not wasting time, things like that, of course. But what's underneath it all is something that just feels right. And
yeah,
I think all of our competitors, I really think 100% of anybody we compete with is it's more like sales training. It's about me. It's
hmm,
about me hitting a quota, a number. And it just, even if you learn something like that that can be helpful, it doesn't feel right. And I think what feels right is helping other people, getting up, doing it again, doing so in a way that it's going to help us too, but starting with helpfulness. And
yeah,
I think that's what you're talking about here is that um, that idea of disconnecting ourselves from the outcome and just making the next right move that's helpful.
yeah.
Being able to do that over and over again, where we're
I
just
think,
building up.
yeah, yeah. I think Mo, I would take it a little bit deeper. I think what you've shown me just through your own example time and time again, it's not it's not just about helping people. It's like you are living permission that it's okay to care about people. And it actually feels good to care about people. And they feel that from you. And when you can come across as a professional caring about other people, just you showing up in your own unique way as a human being with your own foibles, and I care about the person in front of you, that's a differentiator right there.
You know what I think it is? I think it is. And if we can compare, or if we can pair, not compare, if we can pair like a deep technical expertise in whatever we
Yeah,
do, world
yeah,
class, with this I care about you, um, that's where the magic is. I mean, who can beat that? If you're
right,
best in world, or if you have some incredible expertise people need, and you pair that
right.
with true caring, listening, following up, being helpful, um, and the sense that that is true, that caring is true. God, there's just no stopping.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so we've talked about the threshold of like just Mo to more people than Mo. We talked about the threshold of the book and everything that that meant. What's the next threshold, Mo?
I love the narrative, or there's probably a quote here where Steve Jobs was talking about his life. Is nearing the end of his life, and somebody asked, what was the greatest product that he ever worked on, something like that, and he said it's Apple itself as an entity.
Mhm.
And when you think of the enduring success of that organization and just how well they do things long after Steve Jobs passed away, I I think where I'm focused now is just Bunnell Idea Group as an entity. Of course, that
Yeah,
means we have to serve all of our clients and do a great job. in that, but I really want to create an organization that will endure long after I'm gone. I'm not thinking about leaving or anything like that, but 58, and I've got to
Yeah.
start thinking about how can I create a path where we have the right talent, we continue to build on our intellectual property, we continue to delight and surprise and change lives, and how can we do that without me in the middle? We've got almost
Right.
all things where I'm not in the middle, but there's still some things I am, and I just have to keep
Well, and you
moving
are
down that
literally
road.
the bee in big.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of hard to avoid. Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that idea of how do you build a business that you are unnecessary in,
Yep.
right?
Who I think
Yeah.
of is it's like he's the most maybe influential person nobody's ever heard of the name, but Bruce Henderson. Bruce Henderson started Boston Consulting Group.
Ah, okay.
And if you think of three major consulting firms in the world, you got McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, all great. Um, the culture at BCG is magic. It really
Hmm.
is magical. And what Bruce did to create an enduring organization, and I know a little bit about the origin story and what he did and how he gave back his shares, but there were requirements that the firm couldn't do certain things because he gave it all back to so that it would
Wow.
ensure that the culture would persist in the way that he wanted it to. And what an incredible origin story. So when I think about, yeah, I'm still at the center of certain things. Man, there was an Ernst, there was a Young, there was a Price, there was a there was a
There's
Cooper,
a
there was a
McKinsey. Yeah.
Lybrand.
Yeah.
Lybrand doesn't
Yeah.
care anymore. We don't care about it. But
Yeah. No,
there were these people that started a firm that endured and persisted after them, and they somehow did it. So I feel like I can do it too. And yeah, maybe Big still has a Bunnell in the front, but it doesn't mean that X many years from now that I have to be there. So I'm like really, really focused on that.
that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. And, I am sure that you have plenty of people who would love to uh, invest a lot of money in you and pay you a lot of money and give you. I mean, I've got tons of clients who have worked with private equity, and with very few exceptions, they were not happy after they did so.
Exactly. How many stories do you know of the person sold, they got the big check, they got another big check 3 years later, and they regret it. And
Yeah,
so I'd rather find a like I feel like I just absolutely love the impact we have on our clients, and I just can't overstate it. It's hard to even communicate how strongly I am excited about that. Just as much though, I love the impact that we have on our employees and our team.
yeah.
So that's what I want to stay, and I wouldn't want that to get ruined.
That's one of the things that I think was really beautiful about Hewitt.
Yes, it was a
Yeah, I mean,
magical time.
the culture that Hewitt created was incredible, and you and I to some extent are kind of these messengers in the world of like, no, wait, you could do great things and treat people amazingly well.
I got an email the other day from Craig Dolezal, who's still
Oh,
there. Of
yeah.
course, now Hewitt's part of Aon, and they dropped the Hewitt off the end.
When he's on the
Wish it
West
was still
Coast
there.
now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's still leading a
Yeah,
big chunk of the healthcare practice. But he recruited me back in '95 or whatever,
yeah,
and was for me the stalwart of like what Hewitt Associates meant. Like if I think of one person, for me, it's Craig that
yeah,
embodies that culture you talked about. And I got an email from him talking about what it was like in that time period that I was in the healthcare practice working with him as a green visor in the backroom
yeah.
actuary, and it was absolutely magic. It was the talent we had, the collegiality, the we'll figure it out, the how we work together, how we served our clients, the impact we have. Like it was a magical time, and I think of that a lot because that's what I'm trying to like duplicate in at Bunnell Idea Group.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Mo.
Yeah,
I can't believe how long we've been talking, so I probably need to bring this to a close. But any words of wisdom or magic, or for our audience as we think about departing this conversation?
yeah. I will. How if I end with a sort of a practical ending and an inspirational ending? On the
Yeah,
practical ending, if people want to learn more, Go grab a
Yeah.
book. Give to Grow. It's funny. Give to Grow is the second book, but I actually would read it first. It's
Hmm.
shorter. It's more digestible. And Give to Grow would like give tons of practical principles and inspirational stories, all the
Well, it's a
science that's underneath.
philosophy in a book. I
It
love
sort
it.
of
I love
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like that's like if somebody wanted to learn more about this stuff, like what are they, Jeff and Mo talking about? It's
Yeah,
like go
and you have
grab Give to
so
Grow.
much material, so much free stuff, right? Before
Yep.
people ever take a training with you,
Yep.
they there's like hundreds of pages, maybe thousands of pages of material out there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And follow Mo Bunnell and my name, on LinkedIn. Every day there's an infographic that gives you little tips.
And
Um,
they're
yeah,
awesome, by the way.
yeah. Thank you. It's going crazy. Yeah, when you add up the words or the transcripts of our 600 plus podcast episodes, the books, the training, it's like 4.5 million words of content we've created in 20
Wow.
years. It's pretty cool. So yeah, all that it's all free or close to free.
Yeah,
Books are cheap.
yeah.
Um, so that's sort of the practical thing. Lots of ways to move forward. I think I think on the inspirational side, I would say, or let me just give a story. I was working with a client recently, and she went through. She was at a big law firm, one you would definitely recognize, and
Uh-huh.
she went through, and this is like 10 years ago, and I happened to be there that day. Had a colleague teaching it, but I went for like the happy hour, and it was actually the happy hour was the night before. And she came up, she said, "Hey, I just want to tell you something. If you wouldn't mind telling your facilitator, um, I didn't really become a lawyer to sell. I made partner. I'm going to go through the session, but really I'm looking for jobs in house. I just want to let you know that I'm in the back of the room and not really engaging. That this
Yeah.
is why." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll tell her." Well, she circled back a couple days later and she said, "I did not realize that I could have a growth mindset and feel so great about it. I actually think I can do this now after going through the class. And I'm real excited." Well, I was getting, pings from my facilitator and coach that, wow, this person's doing really well. Never heard anything again. But like 8 years later, a couple years ago, we got a contact form filled out on our website. And it's like people really do review those, and they
Yeah.
forwarded me like, "You'll love this one," and it was that person. And
Wow.
she said, "I just want to let you know that I moved to this other firm, and it's a more elite firm than she was at before, and I just got named global practice leader for one of their biggest practice areas. And I think it's really because of that training that we did back then. I just wanted to let you know that." And
Wow.
and I think the inspiring part of that is we can all get better at things. We can always improve in an area. And for us, that's people hiring us to teach them business development skills. For you, it's a leader of a company that is trying to figure out what they want in life and that you can guide them through a process that work that you've perfected over 10 years. And I just think you've had a thread through this whole episode that basically has said we can achieve more than we probably think we can. And I think
Yeah.
it's true for everybody, including me and you, folks listening, and everybody else. We just need to find the people to help us through that and just think big, but start small and then scale up.
Yeah. Someone told me at one point that excitement and fear are the same emotion. We just put a different label on it. And I really think that that can be your guide. It's like there's
Mm,
little like, wait, could I actually do that? Where it's like, I don't know, but I'm kind of eager to find out. Like if you keep finding those little nuggets, man, sky's the limit.
perfect
Yeah.
ending.
Yeah. Thanks, Mo. It's so good to see you. Great catching up. And we'll talk again soon. Okay.
I love it, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. Thank you for joining us on the Pick Now podcast. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.